We'll call this meeting to order for the Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors for January 17th, 2023. Roll call, please, Mr. Vader.
Hall.
Here.
Little.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Jelka.
Here.
Leyland.
Here. Would everyone please join us for a moment of silence as we reflect on our actions here today? Thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 1 is the agenda received as proposed or as amended.
Second. Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is received. Public comments. Is there anyone in the audience today that has anything to speak on that is not on today's agenda? Is there anyone on Zoom? Hearing none, we'll move on to claims and payments. Ms.
Good morning.
Weaver? Good morning.
So a couple payments today. We are making the second installment of the reimbursement for Sarah Geiger from the Sheriff's Department. She is a social worker, I believe. And not too many unusual things today. We are also paying for a large installment to Shive Hattery, $78,500 for engineering for Casey Lake restoration. Making another installment on our workers' comp for $39,418, and paying for 2 vehicles from Witham Auto Center, each for $36,856. And I think that's all the significant ones today. Our total is $653,836.74. And out of the Sheriff's 60/40 fund, we are paying $39,408.67, and that includes the Sarah Geiger payment. Everything appears to be in order, and I would entertain any questions.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. If there are no questions, please answer as your name is called.
Hall.
Yes.
Little.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Jelka.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item number 4 is a presentation, Blackhawk County Public Health Workforce Development Survey. And I was going to say, Caitlin, thank you very much. And I was going to say, if you would give us a little bit of information about why this survey is taking place and introduce our speakers.
Yes, Caitlin Emmerich, Interim Director for the Health Department. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Dr. Anjali Deshpande and Anya Morozov. Dr. Deshpande is our faculty advisor for our Academic Public Health Partnership, and Anya is a graduate student at the University of Iowa College of Public Health. We've been working with them for a little over a year. At least I've been working with them for a little over a year. The University of Iowa College of Public Health has received some public health workforce development funds, which allowed them the opportunity to work with 3 health departments in the state of Iowa, and we're one of them. And so they've been working with us on primarily the largest project has been the learning culture assessment. This does have potential linkage to the classification and compensation study, so I wanted to make sure that the board had the opportunity to receive the results. These results were presented to all staff at the health department in September and to the Blackhawk County Board of Health in October. And they've already got their slides pulled up, so I will hand it over to, I believe, Anjali, correct?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much to the Board of Supervisors for including us on your agenda today. Let's see here. All right. So as Caitlin has described already briefly, we here at the College of Public Health at the University of Iowa have been involved in a project that we call the Academic Public Health Partnership, where several faculty here at the university, working with graduate students, are working in collaboration with 3 local health departments, and Black Hawk County Public Health is one of the departments that we're working with. This is an opportunity for our students at the college, both at the undergraduate and graduate level, to gain experience in public health, to see what public health looks like, on the ground in real communities, what kind of work is being done, as well as to partner with the health departments on training needs that staff may have. As we started working with Black Hawk County Public Health, and this was, as Caitlin said, about 15 months ago, there are multiple areas that we thought that we could work in, and the first priority was identified by the leadership of the Public Health Department to be workforce development. And this is a really important area right now in public health, because as we know, after the pandemic, a lot of people retired out of public health, as well as we have a number of workforce shortages that we see not only at the state level, but also at local levels. So we decided we would approach workforce development in Black Hawk County in 2 phases. The first phase was to do an organizational level assessment of the health department to be able to assess it as a learning organization. So what does it do? How does it help support staff? How can we look at what it does to support staff, both from a recruitment and a retention perspective, as well as from a development perspective for individual staff members? So the first piece, as I said, would be this organizational level assessment, and that would then be followed up by an individual level assessment of employee competencies. And these kinds of assessments are important for Black Hawk County Public Health because they are a newly accredited public health organization, and workforce development is an important piece of that accreditation. The overall goal of these assessments is to identify and address needs at both the organizational and the individual level. And this can help to move the organization towards a vibrant learning organization, one that can serve Black Hawk County efficiently, effectively, and in ways that advance health. And it can also help individual staff members really build their skills and their career development. So I'm going to turn it over to Anya, who, as I mentioned, is one of the graduate students who is working with me on this project. She's going to take us through some of the findings from our organizational level assessment, and then I'll come back to talk about how it's important for the organization moving on.
Yeah, thank you, Anjali. So I'm just going to walk briefly through some of the main results. So the assessment had a response rate of 86%, and 45 employees filled out the survey. There were 93 questions in total, and so when we analyzed the results, we wanted to summarize it, and we used themes related to areas of strength and areas for improvement within the organization. And the numbers are summarized in the overall report, but just to give you a sense of some of the themes, starting with the areas of strength, we found that Black Hawk County public health employees are very mission-driven. They connect with their community, exhibit team building and collaboration. They have leadership support for learning, and they are satisfied with their health benefits. So in all of these categories, there were questions where 60% or more employees agreed with the statement. Next slide, please. So shifting to areas for improvement, we presented results in the report in terms of items that could primarily be influenced internally by employees at Black Hawk County Public Health and externally by groups such as the Board of Supervisors or Human Resources. And the areas for improvement with mainly internal influence included systems to capture, measure, share, and reward learning. And then various processes such as the orientation process, performance evaluations, and opportunities for advancement. So in all of these areas, at most, only about 36% of employees agreed with the statements. Next slide, please.
Anya, I have a question. When you have on there the performance evaluations, was there anything particular about those? Is it not having them or not enough information or?
Yeah, so the prompt that addressed performance evaluations was the performance evaluation system provides me with useful information to support me in doing my job. So I think that folks at the health department could kind of dive into that more to figure out exactly what that means for employees at the health department, but just at the level of the prompt, that's the information that we have.
Okay, thank you.
And Caitlin may be able to say a word or two about that when we come to the end.
Yeah. Yeah, so then shifting to the areas with mainly external influence, the main themes that came up were around pay, benefits, funding for learning opportunities, and staffing. And because these are most relevant to you all, I'm going to spend a little more time going through these numbers. Next slide, please. So when looking at pay, only 30% of employees agreed with the statement that they are paid fairly. And likewise, only 32% felt that they were happy with the non-health benefits offered at the organization. And in the prompt, we provided examples of 403B, leave accruals, parental leave, and remote work. The survey did also have a free response portion that 18 employees filled out. And in those free responses, employees mentioned paid time off, flexible scheduling, and parental leave as potential areas for improvement. And then only 33% of employees agreed with the statement that people could get money and other resources to support their learning. Next slide, please. And then last but not least, in the area of staffing, we had a few different prompts that addressed this area. And as you can see, 70% of employees felt that their responsibilities have increased over the past year, and only 18% feel that their organization has enough staff to do the work they set out to do. And only 27% feel that the organization is able to retain qualified, competent, and committed employees. And creating the conditions for employee retention has to occur through work both at the health department and through county level support. And with that in mind, I'll let Anjali kind of discuss next steps and how these results are being used.
Excellent, thank you, Anya. So as you can see, the survey, it was quite long. It captured many different aspects of the health department, particularly focused on learning, particularly focused on the experience of being at the health department and what things could be put in place. Again, not only to train and equip staff that are currently at Black Hawk County Public Health, but also how do we recruit and retain staff for positions that may be open or for positions that come open moving forward. So we took these results and we aligned them with the department's strategic plan for 2022 through 2027. And we saw that the findings that we showed to you in very brief today align with 4 goals that are present in the strategic plan. And these include things around internal communications, developing and sustaining financial resources to ensure the department is meeting the public health needs of Black Hawk County. Goal number 7, which is to maximize the potential and increase the competencies of the department staff. And goal number 8, to enhance employee satisfaction, motivation, and retention by creating and sustaining a workplace culture. So in looking at what the goals for the public health department are and the findings at the organizational level, we've provided a set of recommendations to Black Hawk County Public Health, and I think that Caitlin has shared the overall report with all of you. And so you can see that these hit a number of things, not only internally, as Anya mentioned, things that the health department can do to address some of the areas of needing attention, but also what are some of the things that the Board of Health and the Board of Supervisors could be involved with to move the organization forward. So as Caitlin mentioned, we've presented our findings to this overall staff, but also specifically to program managers, and they're starting dialogues about the results within the staff of their program areas. We're next moving to that individual level assessment that we're going to do of public health core competencies. And this will help employees to think about that aspect of evaluation and to think about how they can develop their own individual workforce development plans. So at the organization level, what would that look like? So training that might be needed at the organization level. Are there areas that that the director, deputy director would want to address? And then individual kinds of development plans that individual employees could look to advance their own skills and knowledge. As you can see, one of our steps is to have discussions with the Board of Health. We met with them in October, and now with you, the Board of Supervisors, about areas of improvement, especially those that are going to require county level attention and county level support. And these particularly include things like staffing, pay, benefits, and opportunities for learning. And I put that in there in particular because a lot of the funding that comes to local health departments in particular is not unrestricted. So in other words, you know, it's specifically focused on certain activities, certain services that have to be provided, or maybe grant kinds of opportunities that have certain activities. And very few of those kinds of funding opportunities are unrestricted for things like learning, for things like going to meetings or conferences and being able to enhance skills. So that's something that might require attention from the Board of Health and the Board of Supervisors. Finally, as Caitlin mentioned at the beginning, the surveys that we're doing both at the organization level as well as the individual level will complement the work that you are doing at the county level on your classification and compensation studies. So I think that those things will come together nicely to inform the county on ways that they can support public health. That was a very whirlwind look at the work that we've been doing over the past many months, but we didn't want to take too much of the time in your meeting, but we're very happy to answer any questions or comments that you might have. We've provided, and we can provide our contact information if you have additional questions for us.
Anyone have any questions? Okay.
This is Davis. I've got a couple quick questions just about the scope of the study. Are these findings sort of typical for healthcare across the board, and are they typical? Sort of a secondary question: are they typical for county health department, especially?
So thank you for that question. So the instruments that we used, the surveys that we included in this overall assessment, we took from the scientific literature. So we specifically looked for surveys that we could use to assess the organization that had been tested in local public health departments. So we didn't want to use something that was, used in hospitals or in academic institutions, because that's not necessarily what's happening in a local public health department. So that drove the kinds of assessments that we used. I think some of the things that came out in the findings are common in all organizations. So one of the things that came up was about communication. You can assess any organization, and communication comes up as something that we need to do better on, right? Now, how that looks in a local public health department might be different than how that looks elsewhere. So that's something for Black Hawk County to address further. But it's not unusual for organizations to have something in that area. Similarly, when we look at things like pay, right, and benefits, and now for public health departments looking at staffing, these are issues that are critically important and not uncommon. However, I think that especially now that we're post-pandemic, it's really a challenge to find good people to fill those spots. It's a challenge to keep good people, especially if they're not getting, good salaries, and they don't feel like they have opportunities for learning and advancement and so on. And you all know from, the areas that you work in also, it costs a lot to bring in a new employee, right? And so if we bring somebody in and we train them and then they leave in a year or in 2 years, that costs an organization a lot of money. So I think really thinking about, what these findings look like, what they might mean, and so on is important. And then something that is particular, I think, to local public health, as I mentioned, is the way that funding comes into the organization doesn't leave a lot of sort of unrestricted funds for training and for learning. And so that is something to think about as well. Blackhawk County Public Health, as you saw, has a lot of strengths, and there are a lot of good things that are happening. We've also been involved through this collaboration in some of the work that they're doing in the community. And so we know how, well respected that department is. And so this is just a matter of how do we make sure that they are able to do the work that they need to do and meet their strategic objectives as they have laid out.
I have a question, just looking, since we have you here, looking at the more long-term workforce needs. And I know that there was obviously there was a mass wave of retirements during the pandemic. How are your numbers at the College of Public Health? Are you seeing new students coming in still interested in going into this field? Because we've got one of the best College of Public Health here in the state, or here in Iowa, in the nation, and it'd be great to be able to be keeping that workforce here in the state.
Thank you. Yes, no, that's an excellent question. So a couple things. We did see nationally as well as statewide that there has been a drop in public health practitioners in the state. Mostly during the pandemic, we saw a lot of folks retire. We also know, I think, that there is something, I have lost the exact word that I want, but it's sort of a cliff that we anticipate. I think it's anticipated for like 2025, where the number of young people coming into college, coming into the workforce is going to decrease dramatically just because of population demographics. And so there's a real challenge of how do we get people interested in public health. I think one benefit of the pandemic is young people, in high school and college saw how dynamic and how needed the field of public health is, and how it includes a lot of things, not just a virus, that is spreading across the world, but many different things. So we did see a small uptick in our student numbers here at the college in the 2020, 21, 22 period. We'll see, the economy is also something that drives whether people go to school and college or whether they go out to get a job. And so I think how we draw people in, and to your point, how do we keep them in Iowa? That is really important. And I think that if they have job trajectories, that they can get good paying jobs where they have opportunities for advancement and opportunities for learning, that will keep them in Iowa. And we need desperately to keep our trained students in Iowa. So that's certainly a goal that we have at the college as well.
Okay, thank you.
Caitlin, is there anything you'd like to add?
I just have a couple of points of clarification. So I believe the performance evaluation reflects both the frequency at which we perform our performance evaluations. Admittedly, during the pandemic, we got a little bit behind on those. And so there's been a real concerted effort in the last, I would say, 6 to 9 months to catch up on those, but also the tool that is used and how that tool accurately is an evaluative tool of the duties that are done by staff. So I think that the feedback on the performance evaluation is linked to both of those. And then Dr. Despande mentioned the overall report. So you all will get that report later today. I will send it out. I wanted to be able for you to hear kind of about the survey before having it come into your inbox and wondering what it was. So it'll come today. And I just would like to thank both Anjali and Anya very much for their work. We meet with them every other week for, sometimes a half an hour, sometimes an hour, but they're very dedicated to supporting us as a department. And so just would like to extend our thanks to them.
Okay, thank you.
Extend our thanks as well, so thank
Yes.
you to both of you. I think your assessment's going to align very nicely with what we currently have underway with our assessment, so that'll be helpful. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 5, receive project updates from department heads and elected officials.
Good morning, Board. Kathy Nicholas, County Engineer.
Good morning.
Many of our gravel roads are in poor condition, just due to the recent rain that we've had over the weekend. A lot of this does depend on the amount of traffic that a gravel road receives. Some of our more busier roads, such as Loversea Road, they are full of potholes. The traffic driving on the gravel road creates soft conditions. There's not a lot we can do about it at this time. Placing rock directly on potholes, it's really hard to get the rock to stay in the pothole. It just wants to come back out as soon as traffic is driving over it. So be prepared for some residential complaints, but we are working as best we can. We are anticipating snow tomorrow night through Thursday morning, so we are preparing for that snow event. Can I answer any questions at this time?
I know the main benefit was going to be for in the spring with like frost boils and stuff, but is there any current benefit to the areas that we did like the perforated tile like drainage experiments?
So we've been over that repeatedly this winter. I was over it myself last week, and right now a portion of it is frozen and has snow on the ground, the road covering it. A portion of it was in a more not shaded area where it receives plenty of sunlight. So far, we don't seem to see that it's a benefit right now, this time of year. More, I think we'll see that more when the entire roadway structure is thawing.
Right.
Right now, a portion of it, that lower portion is frozen at
Right.
some depth. I don't know.
Right. So it's the top part thaws and then it has nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Still. Okay.
Right. So I will keep you posted on how that is performing.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
Great, good morning.
Amanda Fezemeyer, HR Director. So just a quick reminder that next week we begin the classification compensation study staff meetings. This week on Wednesday, we have just a management meeting with the consultants, and that's at 10 a.m. on Wednesday in the basement conference room. And that's really just to give the management team a heads up as to what's going to be discussed during the staff meetings. But that schedule went out last week, and so encouraging department heads to remind their staff to make sure that they've got covered operations to allow staff to attend one of the 10 sessions, I believe. And looking forward to see how that goes next week. And then on Tuesday, the 24th, the consultants will also be here to speak to the board during the board meeting. So I'll be sure to include that. I don't know if it's necessarily a presentation if you guys prefer, but there's no real action to take. It's really more informative for you all as well. So would the presentation be fine?
Sure.
Yeah.
I would think
Okay.
so, yeah. That'd be great.
I'll let
Look
Debbie
forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Judy Flores, Director for the Consolidated 911 Dispatch Center. I would like to come to the board and request that the board set a work session to discuss the recent resolution that was passed by the Board of Supervisors last week as it relates to the EMA levy and the consolidated budget. Since last Thursday, I have been contacted by several consolidated board members, mayors, as well as a few of Board of Supervisors. They have some questions and are wanting clarification. They did receive the letter that the board chair sent out last week. However, several have asked that a work session be set so that all can be informed and work through the issues as to this resolution and how it will impact the municipalities and their budgets. So that is my request today.
Appreciate that. And as I know you're well aware, I was going to say that was mentioned in the letter as well, that is something that we think is very critical. I think as a board, we all agreed last week that we wanted as many participants as possible from EMA oversight, consolidated, and the board.
Correct. And I think,
I appreciate
like I said, I
that.
think many of the mayors would like to be able to attend to ask questions and to kind of see how this is going to impact everything. So I appreciate that.
Definitely.
And I would like to see it done soon, next week, if I think would be possible. Because I would like us all in the same room getting the same answers to the same questions so that we all, there seems to be a lot of different opinions on what is possible and what the levy does and where it goes and what it impacts. And so I just want to be in the same room with everybody and get us all on the same page so that we are all making the best decision we possibly can.
I appreciate that.
I think that would be helpful, so.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Judy.
I would add, I guess I would add that I agree with Chris, sooner rather than later. Maybe work with Judy to get a date set so that we can get as many of those consolidated communication those board members, those mayors at the table next week. I know we've got budget work sessions, we've got regular business, but I think it's also an opportunity for us to demonstrate leadership and facilitating a conversation. If we can come to a understanding this budget year, great. If we have to delay because we still have questions, then so be it. But I think it makes sense for us to have that conversation sooner rather than later. And I don't know what the process is in setting. Linda, I don't know what the process is there in setting a work session, but
Well, and I think
it's also my third week, so I'm just trying to figure it out.
no, and the time, yeah, no, that's fine. I was going to say, and timing of I think is pretty, I think, critical, but also the fact that we have an EMA meeting coming up this Thursday, so all the mayors, at least most of the mayors, probably will be in attendance at that. So I think that's a good place to start when we want to start looking for days that work for others as well as for us and our staff. To do it too. We know everybody's plates are pretty full right now, but yes, we can work something in. And that was always the goal, I think, from the meetings that I attended from the EMA meetings, was that we just continue down this path, exploring the EMA, and if it works for 24, fine, and if it doesn't, we move on and see that it works for 25, or at least evaluate it. So, no, that's fine. I think the information that went out and that we took action on, quite honestly, last week was to make certain that dispatch is funded. Mm-hmm. It was to make sure that nobody just left holes in their budgets and then came back later and said, oops, sorry, we thought there'd be the EMA levy and it would be countywide, and so we didn't fund it. So it was just that kind of an action. So no, I agree. A work session would be great.
Linda, one thing, one of the reasons we did delay it or pass the resolutions was at the request of the county attorney's office that indicated he need time to review some different questions that he had been put forth to him. So that was one of the factors too, the reason why we delayed.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Yeah, I appreciate that. I was going to say we had several staff. I was going to say from a finance position, from an HR position, from a legal position. So yes, we'll try to be as prepared as we can be, but there may be additional questions that follow that as well. I'm assuming this maybe isn't a one-time session. It would be something that's going to have to carry forward, and that would be to all of our benefit as well. So
yeah, I think it's also important to note that while we want as many mayors and folks from that consolidated board, we also need to make sure that we've got Mike and Michelle and our staff that are able to devote a lot of time and thought into making sure this is sound policy for us. To be at that meeting as well. So excited to roll up our sleeves and get to work on it. I think there's definitely more discovery that we can do. And if we can get that done next week or shortly thereafter, that'd be great.
thank you.
Linda, did you say there was a EMA meeting coming up?
Yes, Thursday.
Yeah, I think that's important too, because I talked to a mayor last week who indicated that their budget was going up considerably, and I asked why and indicated didn't know. So I think that there's not very clear understanding either under the mayors and the EMA. So I think they need to have a meeting, and these mayors need to ask that question: why is it going to go up if I don't go with the levy and so forth?
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion, questions to come up regarding this? Okay, super. We'll get back with the calendar as well. Thank you. Item number 6, minutes approved for January 10.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Item 7, consent agenda. The following items will acted upon by a single resolution.
So, second?
It's been moved and seconded. If there are no items that anyone wishes to pull out or further discuss, please answer as your name is called.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Trelka,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item number 8, contracts and agreements. Resolution that the agreement received from HRS LLC Waverly, Iowa for monument preservation and on-call surveying services for calendar year 2023 at various locations in Blackhawk County with a bid of $6,000 for monument preservation and surveying services at varying rates detailed in the agreement not to exceed $15,000 as recommended by Catherine Nicholas, County Engineer.
So moved?
Second.
Kathy?
Yeah, I've given you some information in an email. According to the Code of Iowa, we need to reset monumentation if we mill it up or pave over it in our routine resurfacing projects. We're able to estimate how many corner sections we will be impacting, so we're able to put together a pretty good estimate of what the work should be. So we sent out RFPs to 6 or 7 survey firms across Northeast Iowa. We did receive 5 bids back. I gave you a summarization of those bids. And Harold Reeks Surveying, HRS, was the low bid out of Waverly. I would recommend that you accept this bid. We do fund this on a calendar year basis, so it's funded out of 2 fiscal years, FY23 and FY24 in this case. And we do have money left over in 23 budget right now to, if work is to be done before July 1st, which I'm not sure about that, if that would take place yet, but there will be work in the FY24 budget.
Did they do the previous work too, Kathy?
Yes, they were our low bid 2 or 3 years ago for,
Okay.
I'm sorry, excuse me, CGA, Clap Saddle Garber. They had been doing the survey work for the past 3 years.
So this company's a new company.
This company has done a lot of work for us through contracted to our, for example, on the Grundy Road project. I believe that HRS was the surveyor that PCI hired to do the surveying as they did the grading work. So we're very familiar with them, and I do apologize. Clap Saddle Garber has been our on-call surveyor for the last 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Please answer as your name is called.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Trelka,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item B, resolution that the memorandum of understanding for the design of sidewalk ADA compliant ramp improvements at various locations in Blackhawk County with a cost not to exceed $2,000 for design services between the City of Waterloo and Blackhawk County be approved as recommended by Catherine Nicholas, County Engineer.
So moved?
Second.
Kathy, did you want to speak to this as well?
I did. I want to show you a photo of what we're talking about. The county has very few sidewalks. We have approximately 2,000 to 3,000 lineal feet of sidewalk in the county. Our 2 main sidewalks are in the Cedar Terrace area of the county on Juniper Drive. There are curb ramps that we need to address. As you're probably familiar, everyone's seen ADA curb ramps in the cities. We have just very few of them out in the county. This is the intersection of Juniper Drive and Lake, Oak Ridge Drive. And we received a call that they were in poor condition. It's the county's responsibility to address these, to replace these. Because we don't have many sidewalks, we don't have a lot of experience putting the plans together, doing the construction, the inspection of these sidewalk ramps. We would like to work with the City of Waterloo. They have submitted a memorandum of understanding. They will do the design services for us, and then they will also include the replacement of these ramps in their sidewalk work this summer. And I would ask that you approve our MOU with them. I believe it's been reviewed by Mike Trinan.
Kathy, did we put those sidewalks in originally, or was that the developer and the property owner?
That would have been, as far as we know, that was the developer. That's what the landowner, the resident, told me in this case, that when he purchased the home, the sidewalks had been installed.
Do we know why those areas there that we're looking at have deteriorated so bad? I've never seen that before. Were they hit by plows or?
It could be any number of those things. It could be sanding and salting over the years. I believe that they're about at least 15 years old, 15 to 20 years old.
I believe you said too, this is like a school stop for people with their school children.
The resident told me that they would like to have them, the one that would be to the right in the photo. The school bus stops at that location and his grandchildren exit and enter the bus from that location.
Thank you.
Kathy, do you know, and maybe this is a Mike question, when it comes to who's I would imagine this is our responsibility. Were there to be some fine rendered for a lack of ADA compliance, it would come back to the county, correct?
I believe so. Do you want me to speak?
Go ahead.
So in my email, I included information about how ramps are in the county right-of-way. It's very typical that a city jurisdiction would address the ramps. They do assess homeowners for repair or replacement of the sidewalk itself, but the ramps have traditionally been the jurisdiction's responsibility. So I assume the overall liability would be the county's.
And I would agree with that point, Mr. Hall. Even if we assess walks and ramps against a homeowner, the responsibility for maintenance or the liability for lack of maintenance could come back on the county because the county, it is county right-of-way space.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think they need to be replaced for the mere reason, the purpose that they serve. It does vary in different towns. I know in my city, I believe a property owner told me they have a corner lot. They were responsible for both of those ramps in our city, but I'm assuming there's ordinances that cover that. But do we have any idea how long it's going to be before these are fixed?
I can't tell you an exact date. The city of Waterloo, they go out to bid, I believe, in March or April is what we were told. So I would be hopeful that they would be fixed by late October. I can keep you posted on when they're actually replaced.
Okay. Because once we're notified now, we're responsible to make sure they get fixed.
You mentioned, Kathy, there were 3. You thought we had 3 and 2 are in Cedar Terrace?
We do have our other sidewalk is in Dewar, and that's a kind of a different situation. Part of that sidewalk is actually not in our right-of-way, and part of it is.
Okay.
Do we plow those streets there on this location?
We have a maintenance agreement with the city of Waterloo that they maintain the streets, plow the streets.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kathy or discussion?
Thank you.
This is a resolution. Please answer as your name is called.
Jelka,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes. Item C, resolution that the lowest responsible bid received from Dave Grip Construction, Williamsburg, Iowa, for guardrail repairs in various locations of Blackhawk County with a total bid of $139,825 be awarded and direct the chair to sign, conditional to the receipt of certificate of insurance and to receive and place on file the contractor's bond as recommended by Catherine Nicholas, County Engineer.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Kathy, you want to comment on this as well?
Yeah, the first one comment I want to make is this, the $139,825, that is the corrected bid. What we read in the boardroom last week was not correct. The paper bid that was submitted did not have the correct values on it. the DOT gives us guidance on how a bid is to be interpreted, how it is to be read. The per each governs the bid item, and then we do the arithmetic to determine the extension and then add all those numbers up. So we were able to do that, and there was an error in that bid, so this is the corrected bid. As you know, they were our only bidder. They primarily do most of the guardrail work that we know of here in at least Northeast Iowa. So they've done a lot of work for us over the years. I would recommend that you accept this bid.
Was the error more or less?
I believe their bid was $128,000, approximately $128,000.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? This is a resolution. Please answer as your name is called.
Hall,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Jelka,
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item D, resolution that the lowest responsible bid received from Boulder Contracting, Grundy Center, Iowa, for bridge deck repairs in various locations of Blackhawk County with a total bid of $446,061 be awarded, and direct the chair to sign, and the receipt of certificate of insurance, and receive and place on file the contractor's bond as recommended by Catherine Nicholas, County Engineer.
So moved.
Second.
These bids were opened last week in the boardroom, and all things on these bids seem to be in order. I would recommend that you accept the bid from Boulder Contracting, and that I be allowed to sign the contract.
Any questions or discussion? This is a resolution. Please answer as your name is called.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Jelka,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. 9, other business. Item A, motion that the personnel requisition for 2 temporary summer helper/intern positions, 1 vegetation roadside management tech aide, and 1 civil engineering tech aide be approved as recommended by Catherine Nicholas, County Engineer.
So moved.
Second.
It's been customary that we budget for 2 summer interns. We would like, many years we have only taken 1 and used them in upstairs in the office, and it's typically been an engineering student. We would like to continue with that as well. In addition, we would like to hire another summer intern to assist our roadside manager with those duties during the summer months.
Any questions or Kathy? Okay, this is a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion passes. Item B, motion to direct the county auditor to advertise for public hearing/bid opening to be held on February 7th in the boardroom at the courthouse on the proposed fiscal year 23 pavement markings in various locations throughout Blackhawk County.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
This is just our routine spring pavement marking.
You pretty much got the whole agenda today. Thank you, Kathy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Item C, motion to direct the county auditor to advertise for a public hearing to be held at 9:05 on January 31st in the boardroom of the courthouse on the proposed ordinance number 77-275 from a request submitted by John Morgan on behalf of Monarch Farms to rezone 1.51 acres from A agriculture to C commercial district in order to construct a 41 by 44 or 1,804 square feet store/restaurant which will feature on-site and locally grown produce and host weddings and other small events at 530 East Eagle Road.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10 is the work session. Discussion today on consideration of all aspects of the fiscal year 24 Blackhawk County budget.
All right. I'm going to start, I think, with the recorder. Hoping I can find it. And hopefully you all have the correct copies in front of you. We discovered this morning we had a little printing glitch last night. And fortunately, Sandy was on it and realized it. And I did give you a handout. I've been compiling these for as much as my own use as anyone, but I gave you a little document that it just describes some of the primary responsibilities of Sandy's office too.
Thank you.
Well, that's a problem. What are we doing in the treasurers?
While we wait, I'll give you each an update about my land records management system. We got good news yesterday. We are back online. COT Systems got us up and running yesterday, so the process of entering all those documents that we manually recorded for the last 2 weeks actually began last night. So a lot of recorders are going to have a better week, I think, this week across Iowa. So.
Good news. Thank you.
Okay, so as Michelle has our purpose here, many of you know the Recorder's Office records documents. We also handle hunting and fishing licenses. We collect transfer tax for the county on the sales of property. We also are a vital records division of the state, birth, death, marriage records, and we also have a very busy passport acceptance facility. So in looking at our FY24 budget, the biggest thing of note is, as all of you know, the higher interest rates, the state of the economy have had an impact on the overall number of our recordings. Higher interest rates mean less people are refinancing mortgages. So we have seen a significant drop in our revenues from recordings. So that's going to be the biggest change to my budget this year. We will continue to try to hold our passport fairs, and we do 2 to 3 of those a year, so that brings in a lot of revenue for us. I've held the line on our expenses, and I have no capital requests. Usually, if I do have any projects I need to do, we use that from my records management account. The digitizing I've been doing in phases, so I have nothing to request in capital. Are there any questions?
Good job.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. At one point in time, you were talking about doing some renovating or in your offices, correct?
We had an ARPA project from the beginning that was approved that went into kind of the space study. We were going to let other people have half of the public records room. It was part of the space study that we are no longer looking at right now.
Oh, okay. Just no longer looking at it from an efficiency standpoint, or
Correct.
because it's not ARPA?
Well, I would like to see
qualified?
something done as a whole, maybe on the second floor. We had talked about moving offices and things, so I've kind of just put that on the back burner for now.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, is there anything you want to comment, I guess, on the budget? You know, she kind
I
of
don't think
reviewed
so.
hers.
Unfortunately, we are budgeting for less revenue based on current economic conditions, and other than that, very few changes in the budget. Obviously, the payroll increases and reduced our operating expenses are pretty level. I think there's a slight increase in there, but it's very,
Yeah.
she's done a very good job
One of the
holding the
easier
line with
ones.
her budget, and it would be nice if we could just say we're going to record things, but we do have to have people come to the counter, so
Yeah.
I think she's done a nice job with that.
And those fairs have been very successful. Oh,
Yes.
So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got the treasurer's office next. And Linda can't wait to get up and talk to us.
Welcome. You'll be fine.
Good morning, Board. Linda Hensman, Treasurer. For our fiscal year 2024, our total expenses have not changed, but we did move some funds around between accounts to help cover additional training expenses, and for our office supplies, those costs have also increased. However, on this report that we have, it was just brought to our attention that IT will no longer be covering the equipment expenses out of their budget, but will now be reflected on our budget. The budget we presented And yet the one that you were viewing up on the screen does not reflect the upcoming changes on that. I will need to meet with Al and Michelle on this new policy change and see how this will actually affect our budget moving forward. For our revenue, we have projected an increase of over $1 million. The increase is due to the availability of better interest rates for the county's investments. Our interest income will increase from $226,000 to over $1,200,000 is projected for the upcoming year.
Say that again?
We have increased from $226,000 is our projected to over $1,200,000. And the reason would be our rates, CD rates went from 0.04% to, and 0.065% to over rates of 4.0% on up. So that is allowing our office to be able to increase what our take is on that.
So we have some good news in this
We have
budget.
good
It's
news.
not all bad news. This is the big shining star right now.
It was just a couple of years ago that revenue dropped by over $500,000 too, so it can change.
I think at one time it got down to $500,000 in interest.
Yep.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah. Yep, we're excited to, every time we submit, to see them going up. Can we get 4? Can we get 5? Can we get? Are there any questions?
Yeah, Linda, would you talk a little bit? That's first I've heard about that IT. I don't understand. I don't think the board's had any discussion. What's changed with IT?
Who?
Hey, Tom, LU IT Director. At the last department head meeting, I asked if departments could cover, it's not for computers, so anything computer-wise, anything that has a normal 5-year cycle replacement, IT will still cover. This is for peripherals, things like printers, copiers, small items. I'm asking if departments can cover that under their budget moving forward. I'd be happy to help them procure all the items and find the items that they're looking for, but funding-wise, I'm asking if it comes out of their own respective budgets.
Well, that seems like that would more accurately reflect the department's needs and budgets, wouldn't it? I'm just asking.
And I did apologize because it's a terrible timing to bring this up because it's right before budget. And so if there are things that people can't afford right now, obviously I would work with the departments. This is not, set in stone. And so this is an ask. So I guess if this needs to be something more of a policy, we could definitely discuss that down the road. But this was something I asked the departments about.
Yeah.
Linda, you were on the board then. Didn't the board a few years ago do the opposite and moved those items out of the individual departments and put it in the IT?
Well, my memory's not serving me on that. I mean, I understand computers and laptops and IT-related equipment, but I can't answer that for you, Tom.
I was thinking we did that for the mere purpose of keeping track of all the equipment through IT and getting better prices as far as services and so forth. But
Has that worked to our advantage at all? I guess that's what I'd wonder then, by having it that way. Al, can you answer that, I guess, with the history?
So everything is still funneling through IT. I would prefer any purchases, any items like that. That way we can make sure that we are fulfilling on standardization of models and getting the best pricing. So plus, I don't think respective departments want to hunt down certain models since they're not the experts in that field. So we'd be happy to help with that. Ultimately, it's just a funding source.
So you'd still be doing the procurement and the
Correct.
comparisons
We would do
of
most of the
costs
legwork.
and that type of thing.
Ultimately, invoice would go back to the respective departments.
Just that they'd be paying for their
Correct.
budgets.
Like I said, this is above and beyond what we normally provide. Laptops and computers, we still do that. If there's a one-off computer, for example, something special that needs to be higher powered, I would ask that that respective department cover that fund-wise, but we would definitely help them procure it.
Al, Go ahead, Javis.
Well, I was going to say, so similarly, if I'm understanding this correctly, to the conversation that Grant had with us, I believe it was Thursday, where they're looking at 2 additional scanners, maybe 2 or 3 additional scanners. That's an example of one of these items coming out of a department's budget versus coming out of IT, correct?
Correct.
Charge.
And then a quick follow-up question is, Michelle, is this sort of in keeping with general account practices? Sort of where does this make sense from a finance side, or is it 6 in one hand and half a dozen in the other?
I'd say it's 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. The important thing is that departments need to be aware of it. Hopefully, I believe it's been past practice that departments are used to purchasing their own copiers. The printers, I'm not sure of. That may have changed around, and we'll work with them. If somebody desperately needs a printer and there's no budget in their department for it, we'll figure out a way. Because obviously, sometimes you have to have a printer, so we'll get that handled. And I think Linda might want to speak to that too.
For the printers?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just had, I think, two, possibly 3, because I think 2 in accounting might have just be going. So ours have decided to not just one, but do all at the same time.
So we're going to figure out how to buy those in this year's budget, I think. I don't think we're going to wait till July.
Oh, to Tom's point then, is the procurement, though, that is kind of standard, that everybody goes through the same, like whether it's been IT, but it needs to be, I mean, rather than everybody buying them individually.
I would leave that up to Al. I would think it'd be easier for Al's department, because I know some of us call for help with them, so I assume they would like to have input into what's being purchased, so that they know it fits easily in our system. It's just funding. Most of the printers, and I'm not sure of the treasurers, printers are not very expensive right now compared to where they used to be, so hopefully it won't be, a large purchase that we're completely unable to make.
Well, especially it seems to me like if we have one department, like it's Al in this case, that's helping with the procurement and looking and seeing what we're purchasing and how many, and if we are getting cost advantages, that makes sense, but it does also make sense to me too to charge it back to the department.
Yeah. So I think, yeah.
Rather than all look at IT and then we have to go back to IT and say how many were at this department and how many in this department. Just a thought.
I think most of them are small enough that while IT tags them, I don't think they're hitting our fixed assets ledger because they're a low cost.
And that's printers, not copiers.
Correct, printers, and yeah, right.
Okay.
Linda, don't you have equipment that is purchased by the state of Iowa?
Yes, we do.
That would be what? Computers, printers, what?
Yes, I believe anything that we are utilizing on our front line for processing of the renewal registrations and the titles, I believe the DOT provides those computers and those printers as well.
And so what's the process for those? Do you just tell them that you need them or the equipment's outdated and they replace it, or?
Do you have the answer for that, Scott?
Yeah, so they're on a 5-year replacement cycle.
Okay. That helps. Dependability's good, right?
And the items we're talking about are different.
Yep, they're
Yeah.
different. And
These are county.
I think we just had several of our printers basically just replaced within the last 6 months to a year. So we're at least getting down there where we should have majority of them up and running smoothly again. It's just, a couple of them decided to go all at the same time.
That does happen.
Yeah. And then I also wanted to bring up that we have applied for ARPA money, but it was also recommended that we also do a capital equipment and improvements request form, and that would be for an office update or remodel, basically for more space for our customers that come in. We just need a lot of updating in there, where we have the lines out the door majority of the time, and we really don't have the space for those people to wait. It would also be nice at the same time if we could get more of a secure office. I believe we're the only ones in the building that cannot actually lock down, where all the other offices at least have some type of security. But the improvements request form we have put in for $500,000, and that's just a total guess at this point. We have no idea. Are there any other questions?
I see, I appreciate having the summary of the full-time equivalent positions. Do you have any vacancies now, or are those all filled positions?
We do have vacancies. In fact, I think we've got one we're on the final stages of getting that person hired. I'm pretty sure we've got another one coming at the end of next month, and then we're in the air for possibly another retirement. So for a while, it just keeps coming.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's all we have for today. We're being short today. We have quite a few potentially that should be ready for Thursday's work session and next week also. So the next few, I think we'll have plenty of material for you.
Okay. Do you have any idea who is presenting on Thursday, or is that, I know you're still working through some of
Yeah,
it.
I don't think I want to publicly commit to those because I've met with several, but I don't think we have their documents finalized. So we'll get those out to you hopefully tomorrow, if not today.
Michelle, we are meeting Thursday. I thought we weren't because we had supervisors absent.
Yeah, I let Linda speak to that. We're just getting to the point where we have lots of departments ready to come to you. So we thought it might be better to keep going and get those presentations made. But of course, that will be up to the board if you choose.
Definitely
not
up to the board. And Tavis had mentioned that he was happy to review the video of the meetings afterwards. I think he said on Friday he'd be able to. He was in the new officer school. So that being said, it looked like there was quite a bit of information we needed to cover for the budget discussions to make progress. So was that a problem on Thursday for you, Tom?
No, I was just, the last I heard, I just talked to Michelle on that the other day, that we weren't going to go Thursday.
Yeah.
So I wasn't aware this changed.
Well, and she was talking about, too, what she would be prepared for. And so she said this morning that she looked like they were in pretty good position, except for confirming some of those numbers, those changes to numbers, so we would have it. So if that works.
If Tavis has no problem, it's no big deal.
Yep, not a problem for me. I'll watch the video, and if I do have some questions, I'll follow up with everyone via email.
And
I believe we're just in the presentation mode right now anyway, rather than action.
Yeah. And it helps that I got excused from jury duty this morning. It was a little stressful morning earlier, but they're letting me come back in April, so we'll deal with it then. So that frees up time to do this week.
Great. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else want to? Otherwise, we'll move on to item 11. Any reports or information from the board? Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.